Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, can you guys hear me? Am I live already? I can't even see myself. 'Cause this is my first stream, so I don't know what I'm doing here. But let me just go on YouTube very quickly. This is supposed to be showing live. Let me just go on YouTube very quickly. This is supposed to be showing live. Let me just go on YouTube very quickly. Yeah, it seems like it's working okay. Watching the candidates. This is supposed to be showing live. Let me just go on YouTube very quickly. The audio quality seems to be a bit dubious. Yeah, it seems like it's working okay. The audio quality. Candidates. This is supposed to be showing live. Let me just go on YouTube very quickly. The audio quality seems to be a bit dubious. Yeah, it seems like it's working okay.
If you're clicking around with the computer, surely you.
Alright, so I'm going to assume that everything is fine and you guys can see me. Right? Okay, so with that, we can get started. Right, yeah, sure. So, what we are doing today is we're watching the candidates. This is my first time commentating live on YouTube, first ever streaming. So, hope you guys enjoy it and, well, let's get started. So, the first game that we're looking at is Ali Reza versus Nakamura. This should be quite interesting. What do we have? Let's go from the beginning. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, knight here. Okay, G piano. Normal setup. H6 is not the main move, but it's a completely playable move. The mostly you'll see D6 instead of H6. I mean, a common way to play would be like something like knight D2, short castle, short castle. Black often plays A6 or A5. Both are possible. It creates a square for the bishop on A7. So this is something that has been seen before, and like one idea that has been becoming popular is with playing b4 and a4, as far as I recall correctly. Like this, I know is becoming popular quite a lot. I think Nepomniachtchi has played that before, maybe Alireza too, not sure. But H6 is interesting, maybe some new preparation by Nakamura. b4 early on is quite interesting by Alireza actually. So he goes for b4 early on, not something like castling on knight d2. And let's see if he has any particular ideas by playing b4. So goes bishop b6, have to go there. Could not go bishop e7 because queen b3 perhaps. And if you castle, okay, I don't know why we are saying this is an excellent move. It seems like the only move. But after castling, what have you really achieved? Like, what's the point of this early b4? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Hard to say, no? Like if I play some, let's say if I castle, which is possible, I have stopped black from playing d5. Maybe that's the point of this early b4. Not allowing any sort of d5 stuff. And if you play a5, I have b5, a4, then queen c2, knight a5, and you can grab this pawn, right? Okay, so this is one variation. I guess that's the point, to stop any sort of d5. Yeah. How do I know if someone's watching the stream? I have to just go on YouTube, right? Because I can't say if there is any chat or if someone's watching. It's my first time streaming, so I'll get used to it, but I just don't know what's going on right now. Maybe I don't even know if I'm online, or maybe I'm just talking to myself. Okay, seems like I'm live. That's good. That's always a good sign. And if there is any chat or if someone's watching, it's my first time streaming, so I'll get used to it, but I just don't know what's going on right now. Maybe I don't even know if I'm online, or maybe I'm just talking to myself. Okay, seems like I'm live. That's good. That's always a good sign. And if there is any chat or if someone's watching, it's my first time streaming, so I'll get used to it, but I just don't know what's going on right now. Maybe I don't even know if I'm online, or maybe I'm just talking to myself. Okay, all right, it's working. It's working. Okay. Right. So as I was commentating, bishop e7, right? We know the ideas now. b3 short castle, and a4 is possible, which is what was played in the game. So we transposed sort of d6, knight d2. Knight d2, yeah. Okay, knight d2 is possible. Engine says castling. I'm not sure what's the exact difference between the two moves. But after knight d2, let's say engine says a6. And well, now it says short castle. I don't think there is much difference. Not that I can tell. Knight d2, knight b8. We have just a second. Knight b8. We have. Is that what was played? Knight d2, knight b8. Yeah, Nakamura played knight b8 after some thought, and he actually found one of the best moves. Knight b8 is a pretty fascinating idea, because now I think Nakamura's trying to get c6 d5 in, which is what white has been stopping black from doing. So it's a nice idea playing c6. I mean, I can show you one opening where this idea is used. So if you know e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, short castle, standard royal pace. And let's say b5, bishop b3, short castle, c3, d6, h3. You have this knight b8 idea here as well. Black plays knight b8 to go knight d7, put the bishop on this diagonal where it controls it quite well. So this is something that has been seen before. So, I mean, this is just how Nakamura is connecting some ideas. So it's not something that knight b8 is a move he hasn't previously seen before. Maybe he has seen it in this opening, maybe he has seen it in Royal Lopez, but it's just an idea which can occur in these type of positions. So not too surprising of a move, but finding it over the board and realizing that this is the right time to play it is always an achievement. So for example, maybe I perhaps would have struggled to find a move if I was playing as black. I mean, I could have considered knight h5. That would be one move I would be considering, to go knight f4, since the queen is not on d1. If let's say for example, if this queen was on d1, then knight h5 actually fails. Or does it? Sometimes you have these knight takes e5 tactics. Maybe not in this position, because there is takes, and bishop g4, which actually traps the queen. But you sort of get my point. If the queen was on d1, knight takes e5 tactics can be there. Happens to be the case that you don't need to be worried about this here. If you play knight f1, stopping knight f4, then black has bishop g4. And you could still continue with queen d1, knight e3, and okay, engine gives it a slight plus, but it's just one of the other ways black could have continued, although I think knight b8 is the best. I like knight b8 quite a lot. I think it's very logical and principled. You're trying to go c6 and d5. If the audio quality is bad, I really apologize. I've been trying to experiment with different settings. The microphone is of good quality. I just don't know the right Twitch settings, so I just need to figure that out. Not Twitch, I mean right OBS settings. I'm trying to figure that out. I suggest if the voice is too loud, you try decreasing the volume on your device, and it will be better. But I'll definitely improve it for the subsequent streams. we have in Nakamura's game. Let's move on to the one of the other games.
Seems that they keep playing.
Let's move on to the other games, and we could go to. Let's see. Pragyananda's game looks interesting. Both Hikaru and Pragyananda are playing at high accuracy, and Nepomniachtchi too. Yes, right? Yeah, everything is going fine, I think. 4 e5, knight f3, knight f6. We have Petrov and d4. Early d4. I mean, it's one of the lines. Another line which is popular is knight c3. You could do is play bishop e7, bishop here, queen d2, long castle, and black goes short castle. So this is something that has been seen from time to time. You could go short castle, queen d2, and I think one line which is possible here is knight d7, long castle, and I think I've seen knight e5 before. Is that not a move here? It is possible. There is a thing where you could go knight e5 because the bishop stands on e3. Because people have also tried bishop f4 and it stops knight d7, knight e5. I can't remember the exact move order because I don't play e4 as white anymore. But it's a subtlety that if you play bishop e3, somewhere there is knight d7, knight e5, which is supposed to be okay for black. If you play bishop f4, that idea is not there, but black has some other ideas. So if you're a Petrov player, you'd probably know that better than me. But since I'm not, I don't. Castle c4. This is one of my favorite lines. Like when I play as white against Petrov, this is what I do as well. c4. It targets this knight because the d5 pawn is the only one defending it. c6, knight c3, which is perfect. Yeah, now this line is supposed to be giving white a slight edge for sure. And in fact, bishop f5 is the one of the only moves which keeps black in the game. I've tried playing this position against the engine, and if you don't play bishop f5, your position gets bad really quick. So for example, if you were to play bishop g4, for instance, I think rook b1 causes some trouble, and that's probably the point why you need bishop f5, if I'm not mistaken. Let's say we start with h3, bishop h5, and now let's say rook b1, we target this pawn. You could play b5, bishop d3. I would still give white a slight edge after bishop e4. I think that's why bishop f5 is required. Knight d7 is also possible, but then rook e1, knight f6, and queen c2 is actually excellent because I'm stopping bishop f5 now, and bishop g4 can now be met with knight e5. Yes, that is correct indeed. So that's why bishop f5 is actually should get an exclamation mark because it's the only move to be in the game, or well, to fight for something, which is what was played in the game. And I know there is some d5 idea in some line. It's not here, is it? No, not here. But is it maybe after rook e1, queen? I've seen something like d5. Not exactly sure. Knight d7, d5 perhaps? No, engine disagrees. But there is some d5 sacrifice here, which I think Esipenko has played. I think Nakamura and Pragyananda agreed to a draw. Is that what happened? No, maybe I'm just bugging. Okay, we have bishop f5, bishop g5, and queen here. Actually, in this position, I've seen d5 before by one of the top grandmasters. Can't remember if it was Esipenko or was it Nepomniachtchi or maybe someone else. But d5 is an interesting sacrifice, which goes into a big theoretical line, which you guys can explore. I don't remember how it goes, but I know there's some big theoretical line here. So knight h4 is played, bishop e6, bishop takes, queen g5. If you were to take back, there is queen g4 targeting the e6 pawn, and queen d5, there is rook e1 perhaps. Yeah, that could work. That could work out very well. And it's white. The white is the one who's attacking really well here. So queen g5, knight f3, queen a5, queen b3. This is possible. A nice trick here. If you take here, then queen takes b7 and the rook would be in danger. So for example, even if you try to defend... Oh, actually, no, this doesn't work. Knight a6, right? I don't have much. But this could work. I could just grab the bishop. So this is a nice idea which is in Pragyananda's preparation. Has it been played before? I have no idea. Apparently there are 34 games here. I don't know if they're masters or chess base. Oh, these are in master games. Okay. So this has been seen before. So bishop g5, queen a5, knight h4. It's okay. It's also the main line. We have bishop e6, bishop takes, queen g5. Nebomniachtchi is in preparation, it seems. Well, he's down on the clock, so I wouldn't know. But Pragyananda surely is in preparation. He only has spent a few minutes from his clock. Queen a5, bishop h3, queen c3, rook b1. Let me just quickly check if there's anything in the chat. No, I don't see it. I don't see it. Maybe. Yeah. No, right? I hope I'm not missing any chat. No. Hopefully not. Yeah. Okay. So rook b1, b6. And yeah, queen e2 is a move. Rook c1 there. So how would we play here? I mean, except b6, do we have any other options? If I'm looking at this position as black, and I'm thinking, can't develop this knight, right? Rook takes b7 seems very dangerous. So b6 has to be sort of played, right? If I go knight a6, and if I sack the pawn, is there any compensation I can play for? Is there any compensation I can play for? Nothing special, nothing special. So the question really is b6 so bad that we have to sacrifice the pawn, or can we get away with playing b6 and claim that black is up a pawn with insufficient compensation for white? Which one would work? I'm not sure exactly. Let's say b6. If we try that, white is supposed to be putting pressure on the c6 pawn, otherwise the knight develops queen e2, let's say. Trying to go rook fc1. Interesting, right? Interesting. We're trying to go rook fc1 and say that this knight is going to have a hard time developing because we have taken away a6 and d7, both of them. Both of them. So Engine says black is equal after queen a5, but I would always slightly prefer white in this position because black has hard time getting his pieces out. So maybe he has c5. If I play rook c1, queen d5. This is what Engine says, that black can put his queen on d5 and the knight is ready to come out. Interesting. Interesting, but where exactly does it come out from? I do understand that now the power of these rooks has been reduced. But I'm still not sure how this knight gets out. Maybe you play b5 and knight a6. That's an idea. So let's say if I were to play a move like a4, stopping b5, Engine calls for rook d8. Let's say if I make a move like g3, Engine says now knight d7. Okay, so rook d8, knight d7 is what Engine's suggestion is. Just gonna quickly have a look if there are any viewers. Just checking. Not why did I type suggestion? Let's see. Okay, one watching. Is that me or someone else? I have no idea. But okay. Okay, at least we know we are live. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So this is another game which could get interesting really soon. I'm just gonna read if any moves have happened. I have ideas. So rook b1, queen a5. This is what we were discussing, and I think I suggested a different move, right? I was thinking about queen e2, but okay, he sacrifices with d5 immediately. And since Pragyananda plays this so quickly, I'm assuming he's still in preparation. So let's try to decode this move. What is going on here? Of course, when you are calculating, you have to look at all the checks and captures. CD, queen d, both are possible. we could also reject capturing by playing c5 and take away the d4 square, which is completely possible. So let's explore all of these. Let's explore. So why not start with queen takes? Seems like queen trade could help you, right? It doesn't actually, because rook d3 would lose the bishop, so that's immediately eliminated. So you have to, let's say you take with a pawn, and now white is down a couple of pawns, right? Where is the compensation? Because I don't see an attack towards the king yet, but maybe we can organize it quite soon. Perhaps knight g5 with queen h5 ideas, although there is h6 always. So let's say I play knight g5, trying to gain some sort of attack. Maybe knight g5, knight takes h6 could work. You play queen h5, you try to bring the rook here. Some sort of idea. So let's say I play knight g5, h6. Can I go knight f7? Takes, king takes or rook takes, right? If let's say rook takes, then bishop e6 I think is quite easy, because knight c6 I can take, and black's king will be out with a few defensive resources. Rook f3 is coming. I don't think black should survive here. A variation could go knight c6, bishop d5. I mean, Engine thinks black can survive. I think it's pretty difficult. What does Engine say? Engine says play queen c5. Well, now Engine is changing his evaluation. Bishop f7, king f7, queen f3 check, rook c3. This seems quite dangerous, but Engine's confused as well. Maybe it works really concretically, I'm not sure. Rook c3, rook c3, queen e5. If I play g3 and say this rook isn't protected, what happens? There's knight d4, right? And if I take, there is knight e2 check, king g2, and knight c3, and black saves himself. Nice, okay. So rook c3, queen e5. I could go queen d3 check, king f6, and now if I try to gain this pawn, and there is mate first of all, which I have to defend against. But perhaps I could go f4, there is queen d4. So if I go g3, targeting the knight moves, rook c4. I don't know, this seems... I'm not comfortable playing this as black. I don't know what Engine thinks about this, but I definitely prefer white. So, I don't know, knight g5, maybe you'll have to look for another move. I don't know if h6 is the best or not. Engine thinks you could play g6, which is not the easiest move to find, but it's possible. You stop queen h5 directly. But there you give me the possibility of rook d3, so I would not be completely sure about this one as well. And yeah, it's weird. Yeah, rook d3 is possible. Queen a5, d5. But what about c5? What if you simply decline? Okay, black is up a pawn. This white's extra pawn is blockaded. But yes, we do have some extra resources towards attacking. So whenever you are attacking with more pieces than your opponent has defenders, an attack is likely to succeed. So I see 3 potential pieces that can come into attack, and I don't see a single defender around black's king. This queen is a bit offside. So a move like knight h4 makes a lot of sense. And g6, I'm looking at knight f5 sacrifices if they work. Principally, they have a high chance of working, a higher probability of working, because black lacks defenders. So knight f5, this could work. Taking seems very, very dangerous. Bishop f5, queen h5, rook h3. This is actually lost. This could be really good. We'll see how Nepomniachtchi reacts. Not entirely sure myself what I would do here. It seems like he has to do a lot of calculation here with cd5. Eventually, I guess he'll settle for this, but it's a question to him. Pragyananda has posed him a nice decision onto what he wants to do, because dc6 looks to be dangerous. The bishop is hanging. So if you were to play a move like rook d8, which Indian doesn't think is too bad, I would be scared to play a move like that. The rook is unsupported. The d file could be open. So a move like rook d3 could work out very well. dc6 is coming. And all problems because this knight is not developed. So Pragyananda has come with some great preparation here. This knight f3 idea, queen a5 and bishop h3, which is not Engine's top choice. Well, the engine which I have in front of me is not the top choice, but it's the third line and seems to be quite well. Queen c3, rook b1, but maybe Pragyananda has analyzed deeper. Queen f5 and d5. Yeah, excellent sacrifice. Excellent sacrifice, practically at least, because Pragyananda is up on clock a lot. Right? This seems to be working out well. Let's move on to some other games. Where do I go? If I go back, we have Gukesh's games. Gukesh's game looks boring right now. It's a standard Roy Lopez. With its looks more interesting. With it against Fabiano Caruana. Vidit is playing on 98.8 accuracy and Caruana is playing on 99.4, which is awesome. Yeah, so we have e4 here, also limo. Knight f6 is a new line. I mean, not new, I mean, it's becoming trendy. I've seen like a few games recently here. Traditional was g6 and you would have some lines going with castle, bishop g7. You could first take as well, right? I'm trying to recall my preparation. No, I've played something like this here. Rook e1. I think I've played this. And then I've played c3, short castle h3. This is one of my games. h3 because I'm just waiting for d5. And if you play knight e4, I have d3. And if you play knight d7, I have d4. And I claim that this is a very solid shield against the bishop on g7. This is something I've done before myself. And if I remember correctly, my preparation was queen b6, a4 at one point. This is a nice move. I think a6 you can retreat or you can take. Both were possible. I can't remember what I prepared. But maybe takes here. Because bc6, there is somewhere a5, maybe right now. And this was supposed to be good when I was analyzing. Maybe Engine has found something now. But it was good back at that time. Or bishop f1 was always good as well. I remember bishop f1 had no problems whatsoever. I can't remember my analysis of bishop takes c6. But this is a line I've played before. I think Wesley So's course suggests d4 directly. I think Wesley So suggests e4, knight e4 and something like knight c3. This is Wesley So's recommendation. But yeah, I've seen Ali Reza playing h3 first before playing d4, and this is what I was doing as well when I was playing this opening. Yeah, so that's that. c3 short castle, h3 d5. Here we have takes on c6, knight f6, which is completely possible. Even with e6, you always take. e6 actually is a popular move, but I don't think it's actually that strong. Personally speaking, if I were to play this opening as black, I would not play e6 that often. Because we have these lines starting with d3, which are actually quite uncomfortable. I think knight e7, a move is h4 as well here. If knight g6, you have h5. So I've seen people play some sort of variations with d5, for example, but not a huge fan, not a huge fan. I could play h5, and I think black lacks a lot of space, and these double pawns make things quite uncomfortable. I know Boris Gelfand has played this a lot. He finds it alright. I find it quite uncomfortable for black. But knight f6 is a new try, and we have bishop c6, dc6. You could have taken with the b pawn as well, but perhaps there are some subtleties which Fabiano Caruana is aware of. Can't always remember. Is it Caruana Fabiano or Fabiano Caruana? What's his first name? I think Caruana, right? Probably Caruana. But knight d5, this is possible as well. I don't see why this would be so unplayable. c4, knight c7, d4. You could go g6, bishop g7, short castle. That would be the standard idea. Queen d4 and d5 is possible. I think this is playable. But maybe Caruana has done some good preparation on dc6. The reason there is a choice between b6 and dc6 is because one bc6 is capturing towards the center, d6 is capturing away from the center. And now we have this sort of idea that you play g6 bishop g7, g6 bishop g7, knight d7 e5. That's the kind of thing I'm looking at. So d3, bishop g4, h3, bishop h5. And this is what was played, bishop f4. So he doesn't go for the g6 idea, right? This was playable, but he has come prepared with some bishop g4 idea, which at first sight doesn't make a lot of sense at first sight optically, because black has the bishop pair, which is his compensation for the double pawns, and now he's trying to give that up. So what's the idea here? Taking, of course, is good for white. Even Injun agrees here that this is like close to +1 for white. Bishop e3, because you had the bishop pair, now you don't. So that was your only compensation for the double pawns. You don't have that, but even bishop h5, which has been played, why is g4 not the best move? I don't understand. Injun thinks it's a good move, but isn't this very principled? You are creating a brick wall in front of this bishop, and I don't understand what the idea is here, but Caruana probably knows deeper. I would have played g4. It's a mystery to me. Why not g4 and completely block this bishop?
If we
So,
think about how this time
so let's say if I were to play bishop e3, knight d7, knight d2, e6. That's Injun's line. Yeah, I would have played queen e2, for example. What's the play here? Bishop e7, long castle, seems very principled. And white does have a slight edge, but what did Vidit not like here is something I'm unsure about. If you guys know, let me know. We have bishop h5, bishop f4, c4, knight c3, e6. E6, okay? But since black has gotten rid of his double pawns, I don't think this position is as bad for him now. So c4 is an excellent move. I should give it an exclamation mark, because you're getting rid of your double pawns, which was one of your major problems in the position. You could play... Yeah, I don't see an alternative. And this is perhaps the reason why I would have played g4 first. g4 and knight d2. Why is c4 not working here? That's something we should check as well. Injun thinks it's possible. And Injun suggests is castling, e6. And now black is... But knight c3, Injun gives this position a better evaluation for white than it was with bishop f4. Perhaps because at some point you can play knight e5, f4, f5. That could be an idea. But I would have really wanted to prevent this sort of c4 thing. So maybe starting with knight d2 is not a bad idea. You could always fianchetto this bishop. And knight d7, for example, b3, f6, a4, e5 could be an idea, right? Knight c4. And you solidly place this knight. You have stopped c4 for once and for all. The bishop can go on either side. We can take that decision. But yes, this bishop gets activated as well. And now h3, g4 does not have the same amount of power. Maybe it's still good after knight h4. But yeah, black has solved the problem of his bishop. Interesting. It's hard to say if this idea is dubious or not. Well, Caruana is known for playing dubious ideas, which make his opponent think a lot. So maybe it's one of those ideas which objectively is a little bit dubious, but Caruana says you have to find all the precise moves, since there are these c4 ideas as well, which leaves the e4 pawn weak. Right? Oh, I've got some viewers. Nice. Oh, awesome. Let's see. If there are any viewers watching right now, could you guys just know if everything is all right on the On the stream, is the audio quality good? Or well, at least is it tolerable? If there is anyone on the stream. I don't know how to check. If I go everything is all right on the stream. Is the audio quality good? Or well, at least is it tolerable? If there is anyone on the stream. I don't know how to check. If I go everything is all right on the probably okay. Probably okay. But okay, thank you for the compliments. Really nice to see. So team with it. Let's go. Go India. Nice. Nice. Not bad. Not bad. I'm just working on the audio quality. I need to fix some settings. Maybe if you guys know how to put the best settings for OBS microphone, let me know. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos. I've tried what they said, but it's not quite working out. I don't know. This is supposed to be a very good mic. It's Fifine A6V. So if you guys have any ideas, do let me know. Okay, so let's continue. We have seen this key bit of it, right? E6. Now we have G4. Well, whether it did play G4 just a little bit too late, I think. He still has a slight edge. I mean, I still prefer white, of course. But what I don't like is that it's very hard for me to play D4 now since E4 pawn would be weak. I would really want to have a big center here. It just isn't. It's not working out, which is a shame. Which is a shame. But you could start with Queen B3, which seems very principled. On one hand, you are allowing this rook to come to D1. And potentially in the future, you could get D4. You're also ready to castle, and you're also putting pressure on B7. So Queen C8, for example, we have short castle. We can afford to short castle even though we have pushed the pawn because black's pieces are completely undeveloped. And there is no one to attack our king. So principally, short castle is completely fine. If you play H5, let's say you try to break open, G5, your pieces are moving away from my king rather than getting closer to it. So white has no problems whatsoever here. And D4 is excellent because since your king is in the center, I'm ready to blast open it. So this is what my thought is. Oh, voice is harsh on earphones. It's 1 a.m. I can't put it on speaker. I'm so sorry to hear that. Wait. Where did the chat go? Wait. Okay, I can't. So what? Let me just ask. So what happens if you reduce the volume? Does it become a little bit better? That's what I tried when I was looking at it. So try reducing the voice on your earphones and let me know if it's better. When did I get this message? I can't see the time for it. Let me go on YouTube for a second. Doesn't show me. When did I get this message? I can't see the time for it. Let me go on YouTube for a second. Oh, it's okay now. Are you sure? Doesn't show me. When did I get this message? I can't see the time for it. Let me go on YouTube for a second. Yeah, yes, it's okay now. Okay, that's very great to hear. So, Surdardi, who's written this message, where are you from? I'm really curious. Is it India as well or a different country? I'm watching the chat. So if he's here, Sardardi. Okay, awesome, 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 awesome. All right, maybe I'll try to keep my voice a little bit lower as well so that it sounds a bit more pleasant. Yeah, so this is were some of my thoughts on the Caruana's game. Let's finally look at Gukesh as well. We've been neglecting him because his opening was a bit boring, but
Hikaru thinks
well, it's
that he's
sharpened up a
still in
little bit.
preparation. But at the same time,
Put it down this.
Alireza cannot.
It's sharpened a little bit. Both guys are playing at a very high accuracy. Sardarji is watching from India, obviously, as well. India, obviously. Obviously. What time is it in India? Should be around like 1, no? 1 a.m., 2 a.m.? What is it? Well, I'll wait for your answer, and until then I'll commentate. So we have e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. Oh, another Petrov here, right? But here Gukesh goes for direct bishop d3. Oh, he goes for direct d4, in fact. So this is also a line which is a completely playable line. And yeah, knight e5 is the one which is more popular these days, no? But d5 has been seen from time to time. Knight c5, bishop e2. Yes, it's 1 a.m. So I guess you're really excited for candidates, right? I mean, you got that passion to watch the candidates. It's my favorite tournament of the year as well. Definitely, I always look forward to candidates. It's really fun to be watching this one. You get to know who's playing against the world champion for the match to be taken place next year. I remember I've been watching candidates since 2015. Yeah, 2015, I think. And no, 2015 or 2016, one of them. I remember the first World Championship match I ever watched was Karyakin against Carlsen. Do you have any memories of that? Were you watching that one, for example? Let me know. Do let me know. Since then, I've been a big fan of candidates. Bishop e7, short castle, rook e1. Rook e1 is something I've not seen before. Interesting idea. Gukesh is playing this one very positionally. c6. It's not bad. I would have. It's a question. Should we place the knight on c6 or should we place the pawn on c6? That would be a decision I would be trying to make as black. One thing is, like, a setup which black really would like to have is put this bishop on f5, the knight on e6, a pawn on c5, and a knight on c6. So I'll just make some pass moves for white. Let's say we have bishop f5, for example. I'm not making the best moves for white. But a setup you really want to have is something like this. This is great piece positioning. This is your pieces being placed on their ideal squares, although it's impractical to achieve it here, because if I start with bishop f5, the problem is that white plays knight c3. And the plan with knight e6 fails directly. There is knight takes d5. Yes, 3 Indians, that's the motivation. Yeah, of course. I think it's the first time we have had 3 Indians in the candidates, right? I can't remember a different candidates where we had 3 Indians. I mean, except Vishy Anand, has Hare Krishna ever played in candidates? I think this is Vidit's first candidate. I can't remember Hare Krishna playing in any candidates. It's the first time anyone except even Vishy Anand is playing in the candidates, right? And who are you rooting for, Sudardi? I'll be happy to know that. Oh, I got into chess in 2020. My first candidates was 2020. Right. So we are looking at 2020. Which one? So who won that one? Are we looking at Caruana Carlsen? Or that was 2018? I think Caruana Carlsen was 2018. So are we looking at Nepomniachtchi against Carlsen? Was that 2020? Or am I getting my years wrong? So the last one we had, the last World Championship match we had was Ding against Nepomniachtchi, then anyone out of 3 will do. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, so if I remember correctly, we had Nepomniachtchi versus Dingleren. Before that, we had Nepomniachtchi against Carlsen, 5-0. Oh, Nepomniachtchi's first win. Okay, yeah. So against the match he qualified. Yeah, the match where he qualified for playing against Carlsen, right? Yeah, that one. Yeah, it was a shame that he could not get a single win, except after the first loss, he could not recover, right? Psychologically, that's what happened, if I remember correctly. And then it went downhill for him there. And then Carlsen just retired sort of from the World Championship Series. He said, "I'll just play for fun." And yeah, that's what happened. But okay, let's go back to commentating on the game. We have knight d7, h3, 5. So I think I understand the point behind c6, since knight c6 would never lead to, anything special. Although you do get d4 at any point. Let's say knight c3, bishop e6. Bishop b5. Okay, that's the problem. That's the slight problem which gives white a slight edge. That's why c6 is a bit better. It's just I feel a bit awkward putting the knight on d7. But knight d2, knight d7, Nijat Abasov does not have any problems. I just want to know where this knight will go in the future. So let's say h3, okay, asking black some questions. a5, is knight going to b6? And then we claim that the bishop goes to e6 and f5. It's possible. It's not the ideal setup, but maybe it's the best we can get in this position. And Injintek's position is around equal. Knight b3, if we trade, we can always bring this knight to c5, but I would not trade. f6 is possible. I would not trade here because it opens the a file, and a5 could be a weakness. So let's say knight c5, b4 is excellent. Yes, I was rooting for Anish in 2020. Oh, was Anish there in 2020? Yeah, he probably was. Yeah, I think this is the first candidate I did not see him in, right? He has been the other recent ones. Yeah, I can't remember his score. What did he do in that candidates? How did Anish do in 2020? But yeah, okay. So we b4 excellent here, as I was saying. We have that. Knight b3, f6 is f6 is trying to make the play sharper because you're slightly weakening your king to gain the f file. So it's trying to make the play sharper. I could, yeah, 2 options here, right? Take on here or take on here. Do we have another option? That's what I do when I'm looking for the best move in the position. I first consider what my options are. So take on f6 or take on c5. I don't see any other option because there is direct pressure on e5. So if I were to take on c5, for example, you could take with the knight. And then let's say I can take or bishop f4. Both are possible. Let's say, or c4 as well, targeting d5. Let's say I take here, bishop f6. I think this position is quite harmless for black. Because black has this 4 versus 3 on the queen side, has got the pressure on the f file. This bishop is strong, this bishop is open. I don't think white has any advantage here at all, actually. I think black's play is quite easy, right? You could play queen d6, bishop f5, and play becomes very easy, no? He was close to winning, but he lost a must. I vaguely recall something like that. Yeah, possible. So I was saying here, bishop c5 or knight c5 is possible. So perhaps f6 you really have to take and try to gain e6 and f5. That's what I would look at. Question, what do we take back with bishop, knight, or rook? Okay, rook seems a bit illogical. Doesn't seem like the best move. But let's say if you take with the knight. Now, see the difference. This bishop is not activated on this diagonal anymore. So I could take on c5. And then I can play bishop d3. And I claim that this bishop was much more active on this diagonal than it is on this diagonal. Reason being that I can always trade this bishop by playing bishop e3. Example, bishop d7. I'll just take a short example. Bishop e3 is excellent. Because now takes, I have full control over the file, and now your king might feel a little bit weaker. And what I'm trying to do is play queen d2, rook e1, easy moves for me. e5 could be a weakness, I just put c3, control the d4 square. Yeah, I understand your point. He was close to winning, he lost a must-win match. Okay. So yeah, that was something that happened. Check something real quick. Yeah, I understand your point. He was close to winning, he lost a must-win match. Okay. That's great. So is there any particular game you guys want me to look at, or can I just choose by myself? Let me know before I next one. I think the job is done. Okay, we had f6. Gukesh did take here. We had knight takes. Knight takes c5 would have been better, but perhaps he did not want this bishop to get activated. The key thing to notice was that this bishop can get traded anytime. Was there something he didn't like? I'm not sure. Knight h5 perhaps? Bishop takes, rook takes. Knight f4. Perhaps he didn't like this. If you play bishop f1, you're becoming a bit passive, and queen f6, black is doing really fine here. So if you were to play queen d2, give up this bishop, not something which, I think is absolutely brilliant, but if it's required, it's required. I would say bishop f5. Black does not have problems because black has the bishop in an open position. Anish was third with 7.5, MVL was second with 8, and Nepomniachtchi took it with 8.5. Oh wow, okay, I didn't remember that. Good memory. Yeah, I don't remember MVL score at all, but okay. The other question which I was asking was, is there any particular game which you want me to look at, or any other opening, let's say, or any other list outs that you have which I can help you sort out? That would be great. So do let me know while I drink some water. Any specific games? Okay, let me know while I analyze one from my own choice. We go back to what's going on here. This game has become sharper. We did look at this variation, knight g5 at 6, knight f7. It has been
spending
and
so
Pragyananda
much
has
time.
not spent any time from his clock. He's definitely in prep. And you know what? I predict Pragyananda is going to win this game. He really knows what he's doing here. Oh yeah, didn't have a look there, did I? Completely about them. Oh, women's section. Didn't have a look there. FIDE candidates. It is only showing me men's here. Let me see. Where is the women one?
Seconds to do so.
Where are here we go. Yeah, let's see which one's interesting. Oh, they're all boring Gico pianos. No, two of them are Gico pianos. One is a queenless middle game. One is a boring French. Lot of boring openings there, but I'll start with Roy Lopez because, Roy Lopez can always be interesting. Roy Lopez, yeah. It's not actually Roy Lopez, it was an Italian which got into a Roy Lopez-like structure. Yeah, so c3 is required here because knight a5 is always trying to gain this light square bishop. You never want to lose your light square bishop in this opening. It's a strong piece. Never lose this light square bishop. Knight a5, bishop c2, c5. Now this is a sort of a Roy Lopez structure. I'll show you a line. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. Bishop a5, knight f6, short castle, bishop e7, rook e1. b5 castle, c3, d6, h3, knight f5. This is the sort of structure we get in the very main line of Royal Lepage. This is what we get, and it has been traditionally known to be ever so slightly better for white after d4. Key point is that after queen c7, the debate was which move is better, knight d2 or d5, but I think recently it has been clarified that the better move is d5, stopping this knight from coming to c6. If you were to play knight d2, I think this was becoming possible for white, although even here white was slightly better. But if you play this position practically as white and black side, you'll realize that d5 makes black's job much more uncomfortable. So if you are a Royal Lepage player as white, I say you do explore d5 move. Caruana and Karpov both have played games here, so do have a look there. Yeah. So yeah, do you guys play Royal Lepage as white? I love Royal Lepage from both sides actually. I play it from both sides. But what's your opinion? So yeah, rook e1, b5, c3, d6, h3, c5, d4. Well, we had c3, similar structure, rook e1, knight c6, a3. Okay, a3 is a possible idea. You're trying to strike with b4 instead of d4. Does it have any disadvantages? I am not entirely sure. So I remember I've seen this sort of position in King's Indian when the bishop is from g3 and the bishop is on g2. Then when white plays a3, you have this sort of idea with a6, b4, b5. Does it work here? Engine says it's okay, but if this bishop was on g2, then it absolutely works. When the bishop is on c2, I am not exactly sure because after d4, the bishop gets some potential pressure here. But if this bishop was on g2, this idea is definitely possible. I've played it. I've seen it being played in a position. But maybe here we have to deal differently with a3, b4. Although a3, b4, your threat is only to play b5 and d4, right? So let's say if you were to play let's say king h8, b4, let's say king g8, the whole point is to play b5, dislodge this knight and play d4. Not d4 directly. Engine says c4, block this knight. Possible. But d4 is even better here, like in this position, d4 gives you a great advantage as white because this knight has been dislodged. That's the point I'm trying to make. Oh, you are a Vienna person, Vienna Gambit. Vienna or Vienna Gambit, which one? So here, how to respond? So if this would be a practical decision during the game, how do you respond to a3, b4 and b5, which is what black is threatening? So do you just play, let's say, bishop e6, and after b4 you say, I just stop b5 with b5 myself, or a6? This seems like a very reasonable plan to me because you're putting your pieces nicely and you have stopped white's threat. Now, you might ask what happens after knight g5, where white tries to gain the bishop pair. Bishop pair is I consider bishop pair to be a slight advantage at least. But here it's not a big deal because I have bishop g4, and if you play f3, which seems very tempting, there is bishop d7, and I say your knight lacks a good square. Once I dislodge your knight, I put the bishop back on e6 and I'm doing great. That's what I'm trying to say. Anything in the chat? No. Okay. So that's that. We have b4 and b5, knight g5, bishop g4, f3, bishop d7. And yeah, that would be great. But in the game, we have rook e8, b4, a6. So instead of bishop e6, we see rook e8, which is fine as well. No, not a huge difference, but I think the bishop does belong on e6. Knight d2, h6. What she's sort of worried about is playing bishop e6 and knight g5. I don't think she realizes that she can go bishop g4 here. Maybe she realizes, but doesn't. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think h6 is completely necessary right now. But since it's a close position, you can afford to play a move like h6 without having to worry about any serious consequences. h6, h3, bishop f8. Okay, so she's still not playing bishop e6 and trying to go d5. She's playing bishop f8 first. I'm not sure where she wants to put the c8 bishop, or maybe she just wants to leave it on c8. But then what's your idea? Maybe just g6 and bishop g7? Then what? Then what? Because white plays a good move, bishop b2. White has a clear idea with d4. But what's the setup black is aiming for? That's what I'm not sure. I don't think black has a clear setup in mind. What my point is that if you were to play bishop e6 and if white were to respond with bishop b2, now black has a clear setup because black can play d5. And this seems to be great to me because after takes, this pawn is not hanging, I think, because takes, bishop f6 and I gain the c3 pawn. So I'm curious to know what Lagno Kateriana has in mind. Bishop b2 is knight h5 played? Wow. Okay, knight h5 cannot be correct. Knight h5 has to be wrong. Reason is that you're leaving control over the center. And that is inconsistent with your rook e8 because the knight on f6 and the rook on e8 were putting pressure on e4 together. The knight is out of scope. I'm not convinced knight h5 is the best move. Let's say I strike with d4. What do you do? Gambit against knight f6, otherwise a Vienna game. Okay. Okay. Yeah, Vienna Gambit can get you some quick wins. I remember. So we'll get back to the game very soon. But so let's say knight c3, knight f6, f4, d5, takes. Do you play queen f3 or knight f3 here? Queen f3 or knight f3? Both are possible, right? I think queen f3 was Levy's suggestion. Levy Roseman, Gotham Chess. And knight f3 is also very good because takes, bc3, bishop e7, d4. This is not very comfortable. Well, this is objectively fine for black, but in a smaller time control, it doesn't seem as pleasant for black as it does for white, even though black is objectively doing great here. Bishop d3, short castle, queen e1, queen g3. White's moves are very easy to play. So I'll give you an example. If you play short castle, bishop d3, you play c5. I like how quickly things can go wrong. If you play knight c6, queen e1, let's say you play bishop e6. Now things already start to go wrong because queen g3, you have to defend against bishop h6. So what do? Let's say you play king h8, right? Defending against that. Knight g5. Attacking here and here. What do? Let's say you give up the bishop pair, which is a very sad sight. Bishop takes d5, black is completely lost. You could play bishop queen here, but then after queen h4, you're attacking h7. If here, that's a sacrifice coming with checkmate very soon. So that's not great at all. But if you were to play g6, then this is a checkmate which is incoming. So things can go really wrong if black does not know what he's playing. Or queen f3 also has been known to be good. I think the idea behind queen f3 was, how was the variation? Was it knight c6 first or was it takes first? I think it was something like knight c6, no, c5 first. And then I think one move was queen g3 here, which I analyzed. You put pressure on g7 so that black cannot develop. I guess I'm along the right lines, yeah. And then you put the knight on f3. So this is what has been seen before previously. But yeah, I'll just go back to the game. And as I was talking about bishop b2, knight h5, d4, it is not clear to me what knight h5 achieves at all. Okay, let's say for sake of example that we have takes and knight f4. I'm not convinced. Not convinced at all. Let's say your idea is to go rook e6, rook g6, which is a plausible plausible idea. But say I go d5 and I stop this rook e6 idea. You go knight e7. I don't know if you can sack or not, but let's say you go knight e7 to keep things simple. I could go knight c4. You go knight g6, and then are you threatening knight takes g2 or not? Probably are, right? So is bishop d7, your bishop is a bit tied up, but after bishop e7 it's okay. So maybe this is fine for black, but king h2, knight g1, g3, something seems a bit off. Something seems a bit off for black. Knight h5 doesn't feel right. Maybe it is right, but it doesn't feel right to me at all. What do you think, guys? Do you think knight h5 is correct? How does it feel to you? I think it's a little bit inconsistent with what black was doing. What is your opinion? I'm not convinced. Okay, let me write it in the chat. Is it gone? Yeah. Let's see. Do you guys think it's positionally a good move, or like me, you think it's not well timed? I am not convinced. But do you think the knight can be strong on f4? Do know that knight on f4 is not always strong. Sometimes it just appears to be strong. I just realized that the name is not Surdardi, it's Sardardi, isn't it? It's Sardardi, isn't it? I just realized I've been pronouncing it wrong all this time. Okay. Let's move on to a different game for now. Or have played here. Knight f1 has been played. So she's dealing d4, which she obviously can. And yeah, I think the logic behind knight h5 was that the bishop had left the c1 diagonal. So that gave it some logic. But yeah, not fully convinced. Let's move on to a different game. This one seems to be a bit interesting. It's becoming sharper. Ali's game 4 e5. Yeah, bg5 line, I've faced this as well. It's popular. Arjun Erigasi plays this. Bishop here, and now d6. Many ways to play here. h6 here, a5, completely playable. a6 is also possible. You tuck the bishop in, you go for g5, completely playable. Knight d2, bishop a7. a4, the idea is to play queen b3 without having to worry about a4 yourself. So let's say castle, let's say you were to play queen b3 right now, you have to worry after g5, for example, can't take because there is king e7, bishop g3, and then you have to worry about a4, and then you lose the bishop. Queen here, knight a5, the bishop is lost. So if you were to play bishop a7, a4, queen e7, short castle, now queen b3, there is no a4. That's the point. g5, bishop g3. And yeah, I personally feel very comfortable as black here. Short castle, maybe a bit too early. Bishop g4 was possible. Engine doesn't like it. Although, why not? Queen b3 and long castle, maybe you have some problems here. Bishop f7, you lose the pawn. Okay. Does black not have enough compensation? Engine disagrees with me here. I would have thought black has compensation. Engine doesn't seem to believe so. Engine doesn't seem to believe so. So bishop g3, bishop g, short castle. We have rook e1. Bishop g4 now. Knight f1, bishop h5. Knight e3, and bishop takes. So black does give up the bishop pair. I love bishop pair, so feels I don't feel that great giving up it. giving up the bishop. You could have tried bishop g6, no? But maybe h3 and knight g4 ideas, or knight h2, knight g4 ideas are possible. I've seen one plan with knight h2, queen f3, which has been popular. And you try to gain control over the f5 square. So we have that, knight f1, knight e3, bishop takes, rook takes, but this is possible as well. King g7. And yeah, it's not easy to play this position for either side. I don't see any concrete plans right away. But let's see what should be the aims here. Black has opened up his king, so white should be trying to get in d4 in a nice position. The idea is it would be really great to get d4. Is it possible right now? Engine thinks it is actually. It's not the first line of engine, but it's possible. Bishop f3, queen f3, ed4. Well, why does the evaluation drop now? It was good a few moves ago. Queen d1, knight c6. Engine says you have compensation after rook c1, bb5, but that's not what I was referring to. I wanted a solid pawn structure after c3, d4. So rook e3, king g7. Let's say I play queen b3 and I want to put a rook on e1 or rook on d1 and then play d4. Bishop g6. Then queen takes b7. So let's say you defend with rook a b8. Now let's say I play h3, stopping knight g4. Yes. Bishop g6, for example. And then I could play rook a e1, right? Or the knight h5 is coming. I could start with bishop h2 or rook a1. Let's say with bishop h2, knight h5. And then d4 works out very well. This is the sort of structure I'm aiming for as white. Which makes me think, what exactly is black's plan? Queen b3, which has been played. You don't have a good square for the knight. h3, rook e1, d4 are white's next moves. So what is black's plan? I'm unsure. Vishali seems to be doing quite well here. Right. Yeah, so I think that would be it for my commentary today, because I've got some other work to be done, some university work. And this is my first stream. Didn't think it was too bad, like you guys feel. I'll definitely update the microphone settings soon. But yeah, I mean, first streaming for 1 hour, 10 minutes. Didn't think it was too bad. My audio quality will be improved. And yeah, I mean, I'll see you guys tomorrow, perhaps. I'll be streaming tomorrow. And I'll catch you there, guys. Thank you very much.